Today I'm down here in Southern California taking a look at the heavily refreshed 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe. This should be on sale before the end of calendar year 2020. Rather unfortunately, I don't know how much it's going to cost and I haven't been able to drive it just yet. So for all that, be sure and stay tuned for part 2 of this video happening sometime before the end of calendar year 2020. The big thing to know about the Santa Fe is that this is likely going to continue to be one of the less expensive mid-size crossovers in America. So if you're looking for something that has a bit more room, a bit more of a premium feel than your average RAV4 or CRV, that's why you might want to take a look at a Santa Fe. And of course, if you're looking for all of those things and you want to spend less than a Ford Edge or a Honda Passport, that's another reason you might want to take a look at the Santa Fe. Clearly, the biggest change happens up front, where we get a much more expressive front-end design than we had in the Santa Fe in the past. And we have these multi-module LED headlamps that are separated from the turn signals up top. The accent strip forms sort of a T shape that runs right through the headlights. It's definitely an attractive look. No fog lights happen down lower on the bumper. And then the grille itself has the parametric design that we see running its way across the rest of the Hyundai lineup. Since 2021 is a refresh, not a redesign of the Santa Fe, this is still about the same size as last year's model. Meaning this is solidly a mid-size crossover, but it's not as big as something like the new Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport. With the Atlas Cross Sport, Volkswagen simply took their 3-row crossover, whacked some inches off the back. It's exactly what we find in the Honda Passport as well. The Santa Fe, on the other hand, is relatively unique. There's some features that are similar to what we find in the larger Hyundai Palisade and some that we find in the smaller Hyundai Tucson, but this slots right between them in pretty much everything. You have to pardon the background noise, I'm immediately opposite an enormous fountain. I'm not able to move the Santa Fe because the engine in this particular model is not a North American spec engine. It's actually a diesel from South Korea. But they have swapped out all the light modules from the South Korean model, so that way this one looks exactly like what we'll be getting in North America. We have LED tail lamp modules here, something that you'd normally expect in a larger and more expensive crossover. Turn signals are actually separate. They're down here lower on the bumper. As before, the Santa Fe continues to be one of the few mid-sized 2-row crossovers available in America with a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. That's one of the ways that Hyundai gets to a lower sticker price in the base model of Santa Fe than some of the competition, which has a standard V6. The base engine is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine producing 191 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque. Then there's an optional 2.5-liter turbo that's also going to be used in the upcoming Sonata N-Line. Under this hood, it produces 277 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. It is rated to run on regular unleaded. Both engines are mated to a standard 8-speed automatic transmission and your choice of optional all-wheel drive. Depending on the engine you choose, fuel economy could range from a combined 26 miles per gallon down to 24 miles per gallon if you choose the 2.5-liter turbo and all-wheel drive together. Depending on how you have your Santa Fe equipped, towing could come in at 2,000 pounds for the base engine, up to 3,500 pounds if you choose the optional turbo. The general design of the front seats appears to be pretty similar to the outgoing model. We have a 4-way adjustable lumbar support in this top-end trim, 2-position memory over there on the driver's door, and a power-extending thigh cushion. We have a manual tilt telescopic steering column with a pretty decent range of motion. Hopping into the back seat, we find one of the big reasons to get the Santa Fe over the average compact crossover, and that is an enormous amount of legroom, over 82 inches combined. With the front seat comfortably adjusted for me at 6 feet tall, you can see I still have about 7 or 8 inches of legroom left. We also have a rear bench that is wider than the average compact crossover. So if you're planning on putting child seats and adults, mixing those sorts of things in the back of your crossover, or you just want more room for everybody, that's another reason you might want to step up into something like the Edge, the Murano, this Santa Fe, etc. It is worth noting, however, that some of the entries in this segment, like the Honda Passport, that are based on 3-row crossovers, when they designed that particular vehicle, they didn't move the second row rearward, so it actually has less legroom than we find in this Santa Fe. And I think the rear seats are a little bit less comfortable in the Honda as well. This has a very aggressive recline mechanism. You can also make these seats a little bit more upright to square off that cargo area in the back. Backseat passengers get 2 USB charge ports, an AC inverter, and then 2 air vents in the center console. As you'd expect, parts quality drops a little bit as we move towards the rear doors, but the rear doors are available with integrated sunshades, which is a really nice touch. According to the numbers, cargo capacity in the Santa Fe comes in at just over 35 cubic feet, but it appears that Hyundai is not including the underfloor storage area, which is enormous in the Santa Fe. You can see how big this is. These are 3 large divided areas, and you can remove this foam divider if you'd rather not have it in the vehicle. There's some little cutouts so you can put larger items in there. In front of that, we have another storage area with space to put the roller cargo cover if you want to do that. Some extra storage space right here on this side as well. This is where we find the tire iron and the jack. In case you're wondering, there is a spare tire, but it's completely underneath the Santa Fe rather than being inside the cargo compartment. The biggest change for the Santa Fe really has to be the interior, where we now have this top-end trim that I'm inside right now. This has the suede headliner, which we didn't have before. The seats are pretty similar to last time. We have height adjustable shoulder belts, 2-way adjustable headrests. This top-end model has upgraded leather. You can see moderate bolstering on the seat back and bottom cushion. These seats are both heated and ventilated. But we have slightly different styling on the doors, and most notably the dashboard, where the dashboard gets a much more premium feel than we had in the Santa Fe before. In the middle of the dashboard, we have a large touchscreen LCD infotainment system, and you can see that the dashboard has kind of a symmetric theme, where we have a similar dish-in on the driver and on the passenger side, giving it a little bit of a different look than before. Similar air vents to last time, and then a whole bank of controls right here in the middle, some physical controls for the infotainment system, 2 front climate control zones right here, drive mode selector knob with a lock functionality for the all-wheel drive system, auto brake hold, the Hunt and Peck style shifter here, controls for the heated and ventilated seats. This is where we find the USB input for the infotainment system. There's also a cup holder in there. If we close that off, we have one cup holder that's open all the time, and then a large storage area right there. There's also a storage area right there underneath that entire center console. Between the front seats, we have a padded center armrest, single button there to open it up. You can see that we have a reasonable amount of storage space inside, but not quite enough room to put something like a gallon of milk or even a half gallon. On the driver's side, the LCD instrument cluster gets the same design that we find in the new Elantra, the top-end versions, and of course the Sonata as well. Pay no attention to that DEF display right there. This is not a North American market Santa Fe that I'm able to take a look at here. This is the one with the diesel, so that's why it has diesel exhaust fluid. That's not going to be available in the United States. We have a round steering wheel here, leather-wrapped with sport grips up top, paddle shifters on the back, infotainment controls on the left side, radar adaptive cruise control controls on the right side. Moving away from the steering wheel, you'll notice some of the upgraded touches in this interior happen lower in the dashboard, like this area right here on each side of the center console. We have some stitched materials right there, definitely more premium than before. Small storage area right there just above this large glove compartment. Rather unfortunately, that's all I can tell you about the 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe, because rather unfortunately I haven't been able to drive this and I have no idea how much it's going to cost. In all likelihood, Hyundai is going to keep the price tag pretty close to the existing model, so I expect this to start under $28,000, even with all the improvements that you see here. That's logical, of course, because with 191 horsepower and a standard naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, this isn't going to be as peppy as the V6 alternatives that have that V6 standard. But on the other hand, if you wanted that kind of power, there is the optional 2.5-liter turbocharged engine, which is definitely going to be producing a very healthy 311 pound-feet of torque and 277 horsepower. The low starting price means that the Santa Fe occupies a relatively interesting niche. Its base price is going to be in the same range as the base Subaru Outback, also with a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, and logically something like the Chevy Blazer, also with a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. These 3 vehicles are the 3 core midsize crossovers that you might want to shop for if you're looking at something like a RAV4 or a CR-V or a Nissan Rogue and you just want more interior room or something that's a bit more premium feeling. Those are logical reasons to get the Santa Fe over the competition, and I expect that value is really going to be the big win for the Santa Fe when compared against some of those competitors. Be sure and let me know what you think about that down there in the comments section below, and of course stay tuned for my full review that should be coming up in about the next month or so. I'll see all of you later.